on here is the crisis of young men in the US. It's probably one of the most charged topics that we discuss, inevitably draws quite a bit of few toxic people in the discourse on all sides. But my biggest problem with the state of mainstream discourse is conflating toxicity with the idea that we don't have a serious problem. A stunning trove of new data from the Pew Research Group highlights just how big of a problem we have, one that soon could reach a total point of no return. The first is the rate of single young men versus single young women. 63% of young men today between the ages of 18 to 29 report being single. That is compared to
Okay, so it looks like we got a bit of a heavier topic again today, and turns out that a lot of young men are single. And this study's from a bit ago, actually, like maybe about 6 months ago, but I actually wanted to come back to it because I feel like this is a topic I never got to really go into because I really enjoy these type of discussions. Because you talk to your friends about it, you try to gauge what's going on, if you have any solutions to that, and yeah. So this one in particular is a study came out from some time ago where it was 63% of young men are single, and when I mean young men, it's from the ages of 18 to 29, according to the study by Wilcox. And the question is that some people are going to be surprised, where it's like, what, 63%? That's a little bit high, don't you think? That's a bit high. And it's like, I'm sitting here, I'm reading this, and I'm like, yep, I can see exactly why it's so rough for that. And so the biggest question is that, well, let's start at when maybe like you're 18, 19. What do you really have that's in your name that you can be proud of? You might have a phone, you might have a car. If you really saved up like all your money, you might have your own place. You might have moved out of your parents' house. Maybe. That's if you're lucky. But the vast majority of people probably just starting school, they're just sort of getting life on track. And guess what? Your average, 21, 22, 23-year-olds not going to be able to provide you the best quality of life because they're also trying to figure life out. They're also trying to get stuff together. And so now you're going to tell them that they have to do all that? That's crazy. Like, ask yourself, if you want to bring like a girl's back to your mom's place, that's not happening for a lot of people. And or if you have your own place, it's definitely not going to be the most top tier house. You're probably going to have a crappy apartment that you could barely pay rent for. And yeah, like, what is there to be proud of? There's none to be proud of. There's absolutely zero. And besides, especially now where rent, food, all that's increasing, bro, people can barely make it on their own, and you're expecting young men who are like 21 to pull their weight and try to move to their own place. And the only people who can actually like be comfortable on their own is if their parents got like a little bit of money or they came from like a comfortable place. And it's not a knock on those people. Like you work with what you got, but I'm just saying, your average like paycheck to paycheck family, and you gonna try to move out? Yeah, good luck with that. Bon chance with that. Good luck. There's no chance. So yeah, that's one aspect about it that people really seem to miss on that. But anyways, there's also another point that I want to get into. Also, let's be honest, guys. Who out here is like the ones who are buying concert tickets, screaming at concerts? Who are the ones that are out, toasting drinks on the weekend? Who's out partying on or posting their parties on their Instagram posts? It's usually women. It's not a surprise. Like, I can literally scroll on Instagram right now, and some people that I used to go to school with, or some people that I know, maybe not today because today's Monday, but they're probably toasting drinks and doing what they do best, or they're at some concert, or they're just probably doing with that. They're just consuming, and so now you have to ask yourself too, like, while men do consume, who's gonna pay for this? Not your average person who's struggling. Like, even when I put into perspective myself, I can barely afford to go on like a trip a year, and I don't even go on trips to begin with. Okay, I usually try to save as much money as possible, even though I like to travel. It's not feasible. I'll just say you have big time consumers, and guess what? Someone who's a little bit older is going to have a way easier time supplying that because they had the time to build up themselves. They had the time to, make their money and get to where they needed to go. And of course, when someone's like far along in the race compared to someone who's just starting, of course, obviously, you're gonna go for someone who is much further down. And when you ask people in general what they want in like a relationship, it's always gonna be something along the lines of stability, reliability, all that fun stuff. So very normal stuff to ask for, but at the same time, you have to think about it like, who's providing this? Most likely older men. So that's one aspect too. And whoever's gonna say be like, "Ew, you want people older men go after younger women?" You do realize sometimes too that like younger women do go after these older men. It's not a coincidence. Like it's actually, I won't say more common, but it happens more than you think. Because we might, for example, like shun it or something, or look at people sideways for dating someone who's older. But it's like, well, yeah, they will actually do go after older men. I wonder why. Not like I just listed the reasons. And yes. But of course, this is not the only reasons, but I'm just trying to put in perspective that when you have a percentage that is this high, and I'll be honest, I don't even know if this is even like reversible at this point. I don't have a solution for this. But as I was saying, yeah, no, this is like very high, and I would say it's concerning, but we've kind of been heading in this way for a long time. And I was watching this one streamer where I forgot what he was saying, but essentially this is not entirely part of it, but it's kind of like back in the say the 70s, for instance, all you had to do is you had to have a paycheck or like a stable job, and you can get a family that way. It was much easier. Nowadays, you have to not only have a stable job, like have your own place, you'll be able to be reliable and all this and that, and also everyone's working, by the way. Like men and women are working. So having a job is not enough. You have to have a lot more stuff, which is fine in the times. It's not the worst aspect of like the world, but I'm just telling you, that's just how times have changed, and it's always been going that way. So the bar for entry gets higher and higher and higher. And right now we're basically at the peak, in my opinion. And yeah, it's not easy for young men out here, guys. And then you wonder why somebody like Andrew Tate or like Jordan Peterson gets really massive, because no one is really giving a solution on how to cope with this kind of loneliness, to cope with compassion, or giving advice. Now, I'll start with the good end. Jordan Peterson, what is the one phrase that he said that really got people going? Clean your room. What does that mean? Clean your room in the greater context. It means, well, how do I put it? You have some, not skeletons, but you have some messes you gotta clean up. And your room is where you go and sleep. It's like your chamber. It's almost like your own fortress of solitude. And so you have to clean it. You have to clean whatever mess. And it's not just a physical mess either. It's a mental mess. It's, I don't know, a spiritual mess. A physical mess as well, actually. Or like, I guess, it's a spiritual, physical, mental, yeah. And so that phrase alone, you'd have no idea how many people gravitate towards that. Clean your room. Like, take some responsibility for your own actions. Okay? That's basically what that means. Unfortunately, no one's going to really drag you out of the mud. It's not up to them. You have to do it yourself. But of course, you have to seek the right avenues and all that. But just that one phrase alone, clean your room. There's a lot of other stuff that he's mentioned, but that is the number one phrase that I think is the most important. And of course, you have the other coin, which is like Andrew Tate, where Andrew Tate got really big because he was also saying stuff like, sort of like that, where you had like, oh, men have to take charge and do this and that, and, take charge of their women. While I disagree with probably 99% of what he believes, that a lot of people found solace in that. You really can't understand the scope of why it is the way it is. And so, all this to say, yeah, young men are having it rough right now. And of course, everyone's having it rough. I'm not even going to deny it. Women have their own struggles and all this and that. But I'm saying young men in particular, especially since this is the topic of this video, have it especially hard because sometimes you wonder, like, where are you supposed to go for advice? Because your parents can't really advise you on this. Even a mentor figure, they have their limits. You have to figure some of this stuff out yourself. Like being a man, like that question of what kind of man are you, only you can answer that question. No one else can answer it for you. So that's a question that's going to be permeating for probably the rest of your life, because you change, people change, you have new people coming in, people leaving, you change your belief system, all that fun stuff. So that's really what I would kind of bring it all together with. And yeah, young men are, it's not easy, but it is what it is. But I also want to like not end this on a really bad note, because as a young man myself, this is not, I can understand, but you have to, first of all, this is advice for basically everybody, but this is what you have to come to terms with. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be out of your control, and you have to just accept that. That's the first part, at least for me, or else I would tell people. And second part is literally, like I said, like Jordan Peterson actually said, clean up your room. Like, go in, reflect, and ask yourself, what is it that I could do to make my life better? And I'm not talking about like you feel motivation for one time you can. I'm talking about a sustainable way to do it. And so all I'm going to say is make yourself a schedule. that's one part I can say. Make yourself a schedule, organize your life a bit, and then once you start from there, you can branch off. But of course, always start with reflection. Reflection will help you a lot. And it's not easy, say, if you're depressed and all that. So I'd also say go to the recommended channels, or like go to therapy and all that, just to make sure that, you know, you have the right way to cope. But you have to take responsibility, because no one's going to take it for you. But of course, when you reach out, hopefully there'll be somebody on the other end to help you. So don't ever be afraid to reach out either. Like, have a good support group as well. Just have people support you. And this is actually the most important part, because I actually watched another video on this, because, well, not on this, but what essentially she was saying is that, well, it's from a book called Atomic Habits, but in that book, which I also read, it's just one of the main messages is that change is always in small increments. You're never going to change overnight. You can't make a big change in one go. Okay? I can tell you this, I've tried that. It's never gonna work. So you have to do little changes at a time. So for example, if you want to exercise, start off with once a week, perhaps. And once you get comfortable with going once a week, ramp it up to 2, ramp it up to 3, ramp it up to 4, and then, you know, go as many times as you can go. Feasible within your own schedules, of course. That's how you have to approach life. You got to look at yourself and say, what is wrong with me not wrong with me. What can I fix in my own life, under my own control, that I can push forward? Okay? And unfortunately, you know, dating is not something that's really in your hands, in my opinion. Yes, you could maximize your chances, but you can also, like, at the end of the day, the other person can still say no. You can like find a way to get them to say yes, but and then they get the final say. It's like a job, you know. They say no, it is what it is. But anyways, that was basically my take on this topic. I find that we have a hard time understanding why, like, men in general are like really lonely. It's just really strange, because it's not something that's really new. And you wonder how some of these knockoff grifters spawn. But anyways, if you like this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and follow my socials down in the description below. And let's rebuild ourselves one step at a time. Peace.